Here in virtual, Creative Katie here. Welcome to my channel, Mixed Media Creations. Take time to hit the subscribe button. If you click on the bell, you can choose the option to be notified as soon as I upload new videos. That way you won't miss any. Today we have a video in the Build Your Stash series. In this series, I show you inexpensive and quick ways that you can take a little time and build your art journaling and mixed media stash. And then you have the supplies and materials at the ready when you want to create. If you wish to support my channel, you can shop through my Amazon influencer links or make a donation through my PayPal link. Both of these links can be found in the description box below. Thank you so much for supporting my channel.
Hi everybody, welcome to my studio. Yesterday I spent about 5 hours reorganizing things in my studio, and this was all started because I bought some new Starlight totes at Walmart, and I just wanted to get it organized, and I wanted to get some of my stuff more accessible. Now, one of the things that I'm recommending, in the Build a Stash series and talking about building your stash, an equally important part to building up, whether you're making it yourself or whether you are buying stuff, is to make sure that you know what you have and to put your hands on it on a periodic basis. Kind of go through what you have and see that, one, you will get inspired, two, you will remember that you have some of these things and perhaps start to use them. And I'm a big advocate on, we honor our supplies by using them. And so, every 3 months or so, I try to do a thorough kind of where I go through everything, kind of re-straighten it out a little bit. Definitely not as much as I did just yesterday, but I straighten it out, organize it, lay my hands on it, and I see what I have. Now, some things don't make the cut. Some things actually end up leaving the studio area, and that's okay. Some things, that makes room for more things, right? But it helps you remember what you have and helps you remember where it is and stuff. So I am going to go and walk you through the entire studio. I've never given as in-depth walkthrough of the studio. I want to show you how I'm organizing my stuff to maybe give you ideas, not to say you need to buy exactly what I have, although some of the stuff, if I believe in it, I will tell you that, as always. And if I can find links to it on Amazon, I will put the links in the description box below. So in this studio tour, I am going to go through and show you how I have my supplies organized and what makes sense for me and how I work and how I create. Now, that might click with what you do. It may not. You need to be the judge of whether this is going to work for you. Now, over the years, over the 4 years since I've started art journaling, my organization has evolved over time. What I have now pretty much has stayed the same, and I really love it. And I want to share that with you, because if you're starting out, you don't necessarily need to redo it 5 times. You can just benefit from somebody going before and showing you. I'm going to show you what I have, the materials that I have, and how I organize them, where I keep them, and give you some of the reasoning as to why I keep them where I keep them. Because you want the things you use the most to be the most easily accessible. And I guess that's the point, and that's why I bought new totes and why I've reorganized, because I want to have this stuff close at hand. Because when I'm with mixed media and art journaling, and you know this to be true, you need a gazillion things all at once. And if you have it somewhere where it's hard to get at, you're not going to use it, or you're going to forget about it. And that's, you'll see my big cabinet, which is wonderful and holds lots of stuff, but it wasn't very accessible. And I'm hoping that with this last organization and thing, it's going to be more accessible, and I'm going to actually use some of those supplies that's been in there for 2 years since I've moved to the island, and I've barely touched. So I hope you enjoy it. Ask questions and give me comments, give me a thumbs up. I will put links to other organizational videos if I mention something. If I forget, you can go to my organizational playlist. And in that playlist are all the videos from the beginning of time. The older videos are when I started art journaling and mixed media, and the newer videos, of course, represent what I have now. One of them may fit what you need, and a lot of them fall in the category of, oh, why didn't I think of that? And if I can save you a little time and effort and energy, I'm quite happy to do so. So sit back, relax. I apologize for the bad lighting as I'm going, and maybe camera angles, holding the camera, keeping it still, talking little more difficult than my usual video tutorials, but I hope it all works out, and I hope you gain some tips, something that you can use, and happy creating. So I'm really fortunate to have a studio on the main floor, and it gives me some place to hang my art. We'll get into that storage container in a bit. We have a filing cabinet, my printer, three Raskog carts from IKEA, my corner desk, so Raskog cart number 1. It holds primarily all my color mediums, and I have them arranged in how much I use them and reach for them in my everyday. So at the top, you can see I have all or most of my heavy-bodied acrylic paints. Also at the top, I have my fine liner bottles. I've got gold and Prussian blue, brown, black, white, and one to spare. Now I keep this at the top because I'm reaching for this all the time. 90% of my projects use these paints. This tote here that has pockets on the side comes from Michael's, and it's very handy. It has 5 compartments at the top, and I'll put a link to the video where I show how I organize and label my paints. So if you hit the I in the top right hand corner, that will take you to recommended videos or related videos, just so you know. So get that with a 50% off coupon. Second level, I have all my archival inks and acrylic blocks. I've got a few of my Lindy's Magicals. I only have a few, but they're here. And my distress inks, distress crayons, and distress oxides. Down below, I have odds and ends. I have my P.H. Martin Hydrus, and I don't use this often at all. I tend to use the permanent acrylics, not watercolor. So this is why this is down here. And I also have the blending tools and the Dilutions paints down there. So Raskog cart number 2, I have a lot of stamping materials. Again, at the top, I have things that I'm reaching for all the time. My shelf liners, you know, DIY stamps that I have, and I'll put a link to that video. Cardboard for stamping, and I use this a lot on different backgrounds. I have my texture stamps here that I use on multitude of backgrounds. They're pretty basic, highly recommended because you can use them for any and all projects, as well as some of my other stamps. Some have been taken off the wooden block, some are still on the wooden block. So that's on the top level. Now down below I have the collection of, or some of my smaller stamps, as well as an assortment of mark making tools, aka lids and tops. We'll give a little bit closer look to that briefly. So this is a Starlight container, and it's 3-tier and it snaps on together. So on the top I have words and letter stamps that are on blocks. Down below I have some homemade stamps and small stamps. And down below even some more smaller stamps. And again, a lot of these are ones that I typically reach for. And I really like this snap-on feature. This also works really well if I'm going on a create date. I can put whatever I want in here in this Starlight container. So it's, I really like this kind of container. Let's just do a little bit of a check here. We have pudding cups or fruit cups for interesting patterns. Now some of this is used on the gel plate and some of it's used when I make my colored sheets. Lids for tracing and stamping circles. The bottom of nail polish that has a square. Children's blocks that have interesting patterns in them. Just anything. Anytime I'm going to throw something out, I look at it. Ovals. So these work well for my gel print plate, if I'm doing gel printing, as well as directly onto a canvas and stuff. These are from SodaStream, and while I like this for stamping in of itself, this will make a nice mount to put a DIY stamp on. And in the bottom tier, I have some more color mediums, and I'm just going to grab them out and put them on the counter here or my table, and we'll talk about what's here. So down below I have my Inktense blocks and pencils, and you'll notice the elastic around them, really important. You do not want to play 72 or 36 pickup with these. Then I have in this tin, just repurposing a tin, my Posca paint pens and my Pit brush markers. Roscog number 3. This is kind of in the corner, and most accessible is the stuff at the top. I have tags, small tags, larger tags. I have some canvases that have the beginning colors on them, and along those lines. I've got cut ETCs. I also have my collection of coffee filters. Some are stamped on, 2 different kinds of coffee filters. I've got doilies here, some of my designer tissue paper. Put a link to that video. Some colored coffee filters that need some more layers and stamping on them. Music paper, book paper, an altered book. Templates to see, you know, if I want to pick a selection from the gel print on, some charcoal paper, palette paper, and some deli paper to stamp on. So that's kind of a collection of things, and I have more of this in other places, but I like having it at hand. So if I'm doing a cleanup of paint, I can just grab one of the coffee filters and put paint on it. Down below, I don't use a lot of this. I have my embossing gun and embossing powders, Versamark's inks. as well as my Lindy Starbursts, which I love, but you know, I need to use them more. Actually, I had these in the cupboard, and that was one of the changes that I made. Most recently, I'm bringing it out because I want to start using these. I love the shimmer and shine of these Starbursts. Then I've got some of my pens, some of my Sakura Jelly Roll pens and Micron pens just in here, and that's just resting. Down below I have extra makeup sponges, Ranger cut and dry foam that I can cut into pieces, and just some circles that I've had in there. Now down below in my desk, you know, the old style desk when you had towers with your full computers and stuff, you know, before laptops became. So I have my stencils in here. I have my 12 by 12 stencils in a bigger binder and a scrapbook binder, and my smaller ones in here. And I love how this works. They're close, and it just these ones both had over 100 pages in it, so I can fit lots of stencils in there. So that's great. Down below I just have a big tray that I fill with water when I'm going to clean my stencils, or if I'm doing a lot with modeling paste, building my stash. Now up below here, I'm just going to move this aside. This rack comes from the kitchen center, and it slides into it, and it holds all my mediums, my crackle mediums, my modeling pastes, Mod Podge, my shimmery goodness, gesso, what have you. It's all there, and I really like that. Now underneath, what I have is just my 5x7 gel plate that I keep. Sometimes I use it kind of like a stamp pad, and I'll put acrylic paint on here, and I'll use my stamps and I'll stamp that into it. So it's handy to have this smaller one here, and that just slides under. Again, big fan of the Starlight. These kind of hold, you know, Micron pens, my Stabilo all pencils, my X-Acto blades, Q-tips, what have you. More gel pens. I just like the size, and they kind of stack and they stay sturdy, so I highly recommend them. I went and I was looking actually for another one of these, and unfortunately was unable to find it. All my palette knives there, my spray bottle full of my Murphy soap, makeup sponges, older makeup sponges right at the handy, spray bottle, water tub. I have a big container of white and black that I just keep on my desk. Inevitably, you know, white, black, and gold I tend to use in pretty much all my projects. There are my craft paints of varying brands. Usually they are Americana, Deco Art, or I have some old 20-year-old ceramic coats that are still wonderful and stuff. Some dollar store ones, and they are here as well. Odds and ends up here, things that don't fit. Display shelf, sometimes I put projects up here that are kind of on the go. If I don't know what the next step is, I tend to put it up there. It also, I'll put inspirational things, I'll tape on that as well. This is a cutlery container. It's for cutlery, but I'm using it for my brushes and my assortment of brushes and paper towel. So in this big cupboard, while I'm displaying my art in here, and I hope I'm not making you guys too seasick. Behind here I have my smaller stamps. And I have these, I put them into CD cases. I'll put a link to that video. You can see how I did that, the specifics, but they are all there. And that is a shoe rack that I've repurposed for this purpose. I've got pads of paper and down below, some more stamps that don't fit, and the only two circle punches that I have, as well as some canvas boards that are close and handy. Extra mediums, my spray varnish. I have a treasure chest of embellishments that I bought at the dollar store as well. Crackle mediums, my saran wrap, that's all there. Down below, I have my technique tags. I have over here things for framing. I also have some of my sentiments here, ones that are cut out. So sometimes when I'm doing, especially if I'm doing an ATC or an ICAD or smaller art, I can just flip through there. They're printed out and they're ready to go. That's in my stash, and I find that really, really handy. So this is where I grab. And in these Starlight Tubs, which was the new purchase, I have in this container, it is a whole bunch of substrates. There is paper from planners, there are canvas boards, there's paper and things that I think I could do some art on. So that's all collected into one spot in one space. This, and I love these snaps, again, it's a Starlight container, and I'll put links if I can find. This is my gel printing box. So I've got bubble wrap, big and small. I've got onion bag mesh and fruit bag mesh and lids and tops that make interesting patterns. I have my texture boards that I made, cardboard, and various things. And the nice thing is it's all in one place. So when I am going to gel print, my gel plates are there. I grab out my gel plates, I grab this box, put this beside me, and I can access all my stuff in one box. Before, I wasn't all fitting in it had kind of outgrown its box. Then I can use my mark makers that I showed you in the Raskog cart. In this container, I have bits and bobs, tiny little bits of all my gel prints, and they're sorted onto coffee filters that are separating the colors. And so I've got purples and the blues, I've kind of sorted them out. And so when I want to do collage work, I can just grab that out, take it out, and it's all there, and it's not in my way otherwise. Bottom shelf, we have a few more things. I'm going to pull them out so you can get it close. So another Starlight container, there are two of them. They have two tiers. It has a handle, so these are perfect to use, again, for create dates or for traveling. I'm going to open them up and we'll take a peek at what I have inside. So in number one, I have cardstock and crafter's foam that has been embossed that I can use on my gel plate, or I can use kind of as a stamp to build texture and interest. This I've had kind of tucked away, and I'm bringing it more close to where I want to be so I get to use it a little bit more. This is all kind of wooden embellishments that really, when I used to paint folk art on wood, and so I've had all of these. So these have been in my stash for a long time, and when I did my organization, I am again putting this more up front and personal. I want to start using, I've got stars and hearts and clips and buttons and things, and I think I need to start utilizing that. Number three is my napkin collection. Again, highly underutilized. I love the projects when I use the napkins, but I don't reach for it often enough because it was very difficult to get to. And the last one, I have ribbons and lace, and that's another thing that I want to start using. I have this. It's kind of a throwback from previous craft life. It's too good to throw away, so I need to start using it. So it's right in the front at the bottom. I can pull this out and start using it on my projects. Okay, so in this Starlight container, I have the extra coffee filters, pattern paper, tissue paper, cardboard, twisted paper, just odds and ends. It's not something that I'm going to need to access very often. That's why it's far back and kind of out of the way. Back there, I have all my watercolor paints, my cutting boards. Again, not something I'm using a whole lot, as well as my alcohol inks are there. I was gifted a Cuttlebug from my dear friend Yvonne, and I only have a few embossing folders and a few dies. So again, this is further back, but it is accessible now and I can use it. I also have another travel tote. What can I say? I got such a deal, ended up buying two. I've shown this before. In this Pendaflex, I have my gel prints, and they are categorized by color. These are usually the smaller pieces. So they're not as small as what I showed you in that tiny little bin. Those are just like the little bits that I just can't seem to give away. These are a little bit bigger. So this is kind of my go-to. This also folds up very nicely, and I can take the whole thing if I'm doing a create date, if I'm not sure what colors I want to work with. So I'll have whatever I have in there. So last but not least, I have my filing cabinet, which again, I got this, kind of basically at a thrift store, got a really good deal of it. So look for, buy and sells in your area. I will put a link to my Big Blue Block system, because basically this is just an expanded version of that. So in here, I have templates and pictures organized by theme. And I just buy these plastic pouches from the dollar store, and they work really well because you can see through them. And so sometimes they're magazine pictures, sometimes they're die cuts that I've purchased at the dollar store, sometimes they're just templates. Sometimes in here I also have pictures. When I was doing the lily pad, I printed off a couple pictures for inspiration, and I'll just put that in there and I start collecting on a theme. So I've got butterflies, of course I've got fairies and things with wings, and coloring books that I can use as focal points, and it's all together. So if I want to do a fairy, I can go in there. More butterflies, lots of butterflies. I got dragonflies, leaves, flowers. These are ones I've painted, pictures, cutouts, templates, sentiments. This is my Julie Nutting, and when I was doing my sassy sayings or my wine ones, there's a wine one there. I've got quotes. I showed you those quotes. These are quotes that haven't been cut out yet on pages. When I print off, sometimes I'm experimenting with sizes. It just goes into here. And then I have empty ones, circles, squares. This is a Christmas one. These color folders are the larger gel prints. That goes in there. And the other part, we have more tissue paper that's stamped on, more embellishments, different things, book paper. It's just kind of storage. But if you get one of those totes that you can hang files on, and I'll put the link to the video, the majority of this can go in there. I've got photo paper here. I've got pictures. I have magazine cutouts. I don't do a lot of art journaling with magazine cutouts, but sometimes I do, especially if I'm doing a JB5 or whatever. So I just have them there, and again, they're classified according to themes that make sense to me. And I've talked about this. Now, if I didn't put a link to the video, because I'm only allowed to put 4 in the iCards thing, go and check out my organizational playlist. You'll get a lot of different tips and tricks that you can use to organize. And the earlier videos represented when I had less stuff, and it's evolved over time. But the two, like my Pendaflex, that is absolutely worth its weight in gold for storage of gel prints and stuff. And my big blue box, those two, or a version of those two, I highly recommend for anybody. Okay, I think that brings us to an end of the Organize My Stash Studio Tour 2019. I hope you were able to get at least one good idea out of all that I've shown you. If you have questions, put them down in the comment section. I do answer every single comment that I receive. Give me a thumbs up, share the video, and do please check out my organizational playlist for more information. Bye for now.